So several developments and a lot of uncertainty in Kenya at the moment. Let's get you more perspective on that now. I'm joined by Dr. Njoki Ngumi. She's a political commentator and program coordinator of the NEST. Dr. Ngumi, thank you for joining us here on Africa Live. First of all, a lot of this electoral process has also hinged on the decisions of the judiciary, particularly the Supreme Court. But today, the Supreme Court seemed to many people to have failed. What's your take on that?
I think I wouldn't want to use the word the Supreme Court has failed. It's such an absolute statement. I think today they have disappointed us sorely. It was absolutely disappointing to not have quorum at such an important judgment. We also don't have the luxury of time that we had before. And so if there was a longer judgment that they were reading and that we now have time to unpack, again, we are in the midst of having to respond to this in the eye of what we would call the storm. So I think we would need time to be able to understand why they said what they said in full context, which we don't have. So we are in a bit of an awkward situation.
So nothing was said today, though, because there was a lack of quorum, but many would be asking, so why exactly was there a lack of quorum, especially since the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court did ask for a sitting today?
That's a question that I think only either the Chief Justice can answer on behalf of his judges, or the other Supreme Court judges can answer. They are the only ones who can tell us why they were unable to meet where they were supposed to meet. If there was all the discussions about the gunshots as regards the Deputy Chief Justice, and that must have been a very scary thing for all of the judiciary members. I think it was possible for a statement to be released saying that they felt they were in danger, and as such they didn't feel that they should be moving around. Then we would have a discussion like that, because then also we can start figuring out, should we have given them independent security? Should we give them a mixture of state and independent security? What does all of this mean? So I think the problems that they had in as far as refusing to make quorum should have been explained. If this was like abstention via protest, they should have said. So things just needed to be a little clearer. And
another body, of course, that has come under fire is that of the Kenyan Independent Electoral Commission. They've been under fire for a while now. What's your take on their performance?
I think the fire is completely understandable. Again, we've been living in what I and several other people have called unscripted times. It's been odd for everybody. It's been especially odd for them. The thing we should remember is that the IEBC did not begin their job in July. They began their job long before. For some of them, it's been years. For others, it's been a bunch of months, but it's not been few. So they've been putting together this thing for a period of time. And so in as far as failing to give us a credible election on August the 8th, those issues had been unpacked by the Supreme Court, both in the majority decision and in the minority decision. Attempts were made to revisit some of those issues in Parliament. Some would argue those attempts were not wholesome or whatever. I think when the IEBC were located as one of the primary issues in as far as August 8th, they should have had more accountability to Kenyans. We should have had maybe from them, even weekly, saying this is what we have done, referencing again, because we need continuity in the business of state and in the business of statecraft. This is what we should have done. This is what we have done this week. These are the things that we have to achieve. We have X number of weeks. By this week, we should have done this, this, this. Again, we need to remember that Kenyans have been listening to all of these Supreme Court discussions. We were watching the proceedings. So there's a lot of things that people know now that they didn't know before.
There's a lot of things that people know now they didn't know
before.
So
the IEBC cannot afford to continue to make blanket statements. Even the commissioners who decide to leave, or the commissioners who go on leave or whatever, and they decide that they want to go and they are opposed to the process. When they say we cannot offer you a credible election, that is a blanket statement which should be unpacked at length.
I want to ask you very briefly, though, because one of the issues that has come up is perhaps the country has become too polarized with this election, particularly with the opposition now boycotting the process on Thursday. How polarized is the country, and how worried should the country be, and how are we going to come from this divide? And importantly, is there a crisis in the offing?
I think we cannot locate the electoral process as the genesis of all Kenyan polarization. The things that have polarized us before have been known, and they've been known for a very long time. We're polarized along lines of tribe, we're polarized along lines of gender, we're polarized along lines of socioeconomic class, the divides, the access that some people have that others don't have, and some of these things are historical. The thing that happens when elections come around the corner is that these things are whipped into a frenzy, and the people become emotional and everything, and then now we start seeing these things through the clouds of this person versus this person. A lot of these issues are a lot deeper, a lot more complex. They need more time and more deliberateness, both by the state and by the parties that then become the opposition, to unpack them at length. So while, yes, the election is a crisis point, it is not the genesis of some of these issues. We've been having them for a long time.
Right, Dr. Njoki Ngumi, thank you very much for your insights.